I came from a very large high school. I had 2,500 kids at my high school, about 700 in my specific grade. So coming from a high school with a lot of kids and a lot of school spirit was like kind of a transition to Bentley. There was not one single kid in my high school that didn't show up for football games. So we kind of had like that big student population supporting other athletes.
I went to a smaller private high school where you would think like the opposite, like there wouldn't be any like school spirit, but because it was such a close community and there was such a big support system for one another and all of your friends were on sports teams, like usually there's like a very strong presence of school spirit.
Well, I went to a small high school with about 200 people in total. I had a graduating class of like 33. At that school, we would pack the stands, we'd support each other. We were all pretty tight-knit, close families, so it was pretty cool going to events and games and stuff like that. We had a good school spirit going on.
For our home games, we would get over 1,000 students, let alone like total fans at every single game. Everyone would be standing. We had a bunch of pre-rehearsed chants, memorized chants. The place would be rowdy for the whole game. We'd travel to away games. We'd get a couple hundred kids at away games. And for the state championship game every year, it was 2 or 3 hours away. And we packed, and we didn't have buses or anything, but we packed the place with still over 1,000 kids there.
We had like a decent amount of school spirit. A huge thing for us was probably our Friday night football. It was definitely more of like a social kind of thing. Like everybody would just go because everybody else was going. We definitely would get wicked into cheers though, but other than football, that was probably the biggest thing at our high school.
I think it sucks a lot. That when I got here freshman year, it really sucked and it was really bad, and like we'd have like 20 people at a game and whatnot. I think right where it is now, if you're comparing it to what it was 4 years ago, it's improved a lot. It's way better than what it was, like without a doubt. Because we have a lot more people, like we no longer have attendance issues at athletic games. We have a lot more problems with engagement at games as opposed to attendance. There's a lot more people that go to games. They just sit there like they're in a classroom or the library and they won't say a word. And then the people that do cheer, they look at them like, what are you doing? And it's just like, we're at an athletics event, you know?
When I showed up to Bentley, I was frankly disappointed. We have a D1 hockey team and some pretty good other D2 sports, but when you show up to these games, even at games where we had big crowds, everyone was sitting down. It was almost like you were, if you were being loud, you were kind of looked down upon. And that was something that really kind of shocked me and I was pretty disappointed with. Well, there have been some great moments. The Northeastern home hockey game this year where it was standing room only and everyone was loud and standing and screaming was a great experience. But I think all in all, there's definitely some room for improvement because I think school spirit and rowdiness and having fun at a sporting event is a big part of the college experience and something that I think Bentley could improve upon.
So I think a lot of the issue here at Bentley with school spirit is that our sports teams aren't really supported a lot.
Like you never get a big crowd.
Yeah. Like I've never tailgated for a football game before, even though they have parent tailgates and we could very well go to them.
Yeah.
Even like have fun on the green space, like drinking or not drinking, like partying or not partying, like we could still have that support system, we just don't. Yeah.
A lot of people go just for kind of like the freebies at the beginning of the game and then leave, which is definitely unfortunate. Like being an athlete here, I'm all about supporting the other athletes, so I know that we make a huge effort to go to other athletes' games, but it's definitely just hard like being an athlete and not seeing a lot of other people at the games.
I mean, I feel like the strongest way to like prompt this to happen would kind of be to target the big groups on campus. So we have a pretty large group of sororities and fraternities, and if we were to kind of target and harness them to come to all these sporting events, that would create a lot of numbers, which would kind of prompt other people to come that like aren't really involved in those sports. And like in addition to that, like athletes too, if we were to really harvest like the whole athlete population to try and support other athletes, it would make things a lot bigger.
And I think definitely people in those larger organizations are also involved in smaller ones, so it's about making the connections and bringing like those smaller organizations combined with the big ones. Like
we're a really close-knit college, so like if we get if we get a bunch of people from one org, it'll branch to another org, then another, then another, then another, and we all like know people, know everyone here. We all have connections, you know.
Yeah.
Since I'm an athlete, I have relationships with other athletes, so because of that, I feel motivated to go to their games to cheer them on. So if they could put on events maybe where it's kind of like an athlete mixer with the other students to kind of like get to know your athletes, that can be really beneficial to make people kind of more motivated to be like, oh, like I'm invested, I know that person, I'm gonna go and cheer them on and, you know, hope that they do a great job out on the field.
Finding the opinion leaders on campus, those kinds of kids, because people will follow them. They'll follow what they do, they'll follow, you know, whether it's on social media or it's in person, they look up to them. And so there are plenty of opinion leaders on campus, and I think finding them, and as funny as this is planting them in crowds and making them go crazy and bringing their friends is probably the way to go, just to, once you get, you know, 5 or 6 people cheering and then you have 10, 12, it's kind of like a snowball effect.
Getting people to actually show up is the first step, but it can't just be that, because there are events where people do show up and it's still the spirit's lacking. I think you've got to, 1, get the attendance, but 2, create an environment that's conducive to being loud and rowdy, and definitely not an environment where those kids that are kind of putting themselves out there, screaming, making noise, cheering, you can't make those kids feel uncomfortable or like they're the outsiders. You've got to create an inclusive environment, and I think that probably starts right at orientation. I've had the privilege of working closely with a lot of the athletics marketing people, and we think that, we agree that the best way to change it isn't with the people that have already been exposed to like what Bentley school spirit is. Those people, unfortunately, a lot of them are going to be locked in and they're never going to see it another way. You've got to, you have the, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse in college, but every 4 years you've got a new group of people. You can enact change pretty quickly in 4 years.